I invested £25,000. Today, that investment is worth £5 million.
Say hello to our hero, the Hydrogen Energy Release Optimizer. Limitless power, zero emissions.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Hi everybody, this is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. I'm delighted to be joined once again by Richard Vobes of, formerly the Bold Explorer, but now you do all kinds of stuff in interviews with awake people and about the Great Reset and everything. And most of this, if not all of this video, will be exclusively on Odyssey, or at least the first few minutes might be on YouTube, and then we'll move over to Odyssey for the whole thing. And that's because of YouTube's sensitivity, in case we get too spicy, Richard. Now, before I introduce him, please subscribe. Follow me on bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey. And if you sign up, it's just email, no KYC or anything, and then you can earn crypto for watching videos. Can't be bad. And also follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, and join my official Telegram announcements channel. And I will have the links to your channel in the description below, and particularly your Odyssey channel, because I do think people should migrate over to censorship-resistant platforms. Hey, Richard, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for asking me on your show. I'm doing splendid. Thank you.
You are doing incredibly splendid because you post so much material and so much great material. It's not even like it's rubbish material, but a lot of really great quality interviews. So just acknowledge you for that. And actually, I am later on today, I don't know when this video is going to go out. I am later on today recording a video with Chris Coverdale about how we can legally not pay our taxes as a protest against the authoritarianism and the government overreach and the implementation of the Great Reset that we're now facing. And Chris was on your show originally, which you did great work there. But you've also had a bunch of guests talking about money and currency and Bitcoin. And I think, I'll give you a chance to correct me here, right? You don't quite get Bitcoin. You get gold and silver, but you don't get Bitcoin. Is that accurate?
I don't get any of the crypto nonsense at all, to be honest with you. And one of the problems with Bitcoin for me, and it's the VHS Betamax war business.
Right.
Because what I've been told, one person will say, oh, Bitcoin, it's the thing. And you go, well, what is it? Oh, Bitcoin BTC, you've got to have that. That's the one. The others are rubbish. Oh, okay, fine. Then somebody else will go, oh, no, BTC, that's fraudulent. That's been taken over by the cabal. You need BSV. Hang on a minute. That's the other one, isn't it?
Yeah, and then there's Bitcoin Cash. And
then I gather there's some coloured versions as well, like red, green, gold, blue, orange, magenta, sky blue, pink with yellow dots on all of those. Yeah. And you start thinking to yourself, and then of course there's these other weird names of crypto which I've never even heard of, which hasn't sort of permeated my little world. And I start to think, actually, apart from this business about the blockchain, and if I tell you, if my toilet gets blocked, I feel like the chain has got blocked. It's a completely different language, and also, isn't it just a bit like the problem we have with fiat currency, in which they just magically make money out of nothing? That This is magically made out of nothing. That it is ones and zeros on a computer somewhere, or many computers, and they say it's decentralized when it isn't really decentralized, because it's just a copy of the logbook, whatever they call it, on lots of different computers. But It doesn't. Yeah, so there you go. If you could correct that for me, I would be very much appreciative.
Well, I'll have a go, Richard.
Thank you.
And if I don't manage to correct it, then this video will never go out.
Yeah, so fair enough. That's it. It's just gone in the bin, isn't it? You're wasting your time.
Okay. So I'm going to take it back a bit, because also not just talking to you, right? I want to, for people who aren't familiar with cryptocurrencies and with Bitcoin and the different types of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin SV and Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Gold, and then there's also Monero and the pirate chain, the privacy coins, and then the platform protocols. Some of that I'm not going to go into.
Right. Thank God for that.
Right. Yeah. But I also want to give people a basic grounding in money and currency. So what I'd like to do is pretty soon I'll just go into money versus currency, right? And I'm talking about Bitcoin as a form of money, like gold and silver are money. Now, when I say Bitcoin, I am talking about BTC, the original Bitcoin, the one that Satoshi Nakamoto released the code for, and the white paper. Okay. Now there are many
which in and of itself means nothing to me. He's got a white paper and he's this kamikaze pilot or whatever he is, whatever his name is.
We don't know who it was.
Yeah, but isn't that one of the problems?
Possibly. We don't know. We don't know whether Satoshi Nakamoto was one person or a group of people. This person or group of people, they released the code in the beginning of 2009. Now, it's an open source code. Do you know what that means?
Well, presumably, if it's open source, anybody can edit it.
No, anybody can examine it. And of course, yes, anybody can edit it, but there's protections against that. Anybody can examine the code. And thousands of people have done. They've examined the code. The browser I normally use is Brave browser, which is an open source browser. I also use Firefox, which is an open source browser, and people can examine the code. Now, Brave was created from Chrome, which was an open source browser. People examined the code of Chrome, and then they improved upon it, and they created Brave. But Chrome and Brave aren't the same. Do you get that? They're types of browsers.
Yeah, Chrome is run by Google, isn't it?
Yeah, but they released it, and they made it open source. So people can examine it, and they've copied it. Now, if you think of cryptocurrencies in the same way as perhaps as cars, okay, the first car was the Model T.
Hmm.
And then since then, there have been many derivatives. People have taken that model, the internal combustion engine, 4 wheels, the Robin Reliant with 3 wheels, as you and I remember, right? But they've created lots and lots of different types of cars. And now we have, I drive a secondhand Prius. There are Ferraris and Lambos and, electric vehicles. They're all different types of cars, but they're all based on the original Model T model. They're derivatives of that. They're refinements of that. They're developments of that.
Yes.
Right now, Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency that was launched. And what's happened is people have created, using that original code, they've created other types of cryptocurrency. Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Cash, Monero, Zcash, Ethereum, this one, that one, this one, that one, all based on the original Bitcoin model. Now, as with cars, some people rave about Ferraris. Some people rave about Rolls Royces. Some people rave about this one or that one or this one or that one. I'm quite content with my secondhand Prius. Some people rave about Teslas. Nobody raves about Model T4s, right? Unless they have an original, with perhaps only a few miles on the clock. They'd rave about that. So
yeah, but I don't really see how. Just because you're, I'm still confused, really, because you're comparing. You're comparing the ethereal stuff of ones and zeros to real things that you can actually get in and ride on one level. Whereas gold and silver, I can see have value because they are rare to a certain degree, and that, but they are actually there. You can see them, you can hold them. That they have intrinsic solidity to them. Bitcoin being a bit of code that people can examine, and then there are derivatives of it. Does that? It may not be the best thing in the world. Gold. But they've copied them. They've just copied, as you said, and made all these other things. So why would you trust it to be of a useful thing to exchange as money?
Sure. Okay. Well, one is gold and silver are great, and people should have gold and silver. Absolutely. Always money, gold and silver, right? But we live in a digital world. And in a digital world, we live a physical world and we interact with the digital world, right? Digital goods have value. I have an email account with Fastmail. Fastmail allows me to create lots of different emails. I think it's a really great email provider service. I've been with them for many years. Other people might use Gmail or Proton or Yahoo or, God forbid, Hotmail, right? There's lots of different software, goods and services. They have value because they have utility. We use them in a digital world. An email is not like a letter. A letter with an envelope that comes with the post it's tangible, it's physical. Nevertheless, we communicate more by email nowadays than we do by post.
Yes, but I'm not. No one's going to accept an email from me as its own money.
No, they're not. They're not, right? I mean, I'll get to the money thing, but the point that I'm making here is that digital goods have value. What's the browser that you normally use?
Firefox.
You use Firefox, right? Well, why don't you use Opera?
I think Opera's on Mac, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I think it runs on Windows as well.
But does it? I don't really know it.
I'm on a Mac, right? And I don't use Safari. Like I said, I use Firefox and Brave. Sometimes I use Decenter browser because that allows me to earn cryptocurrencies when I use it. I don't use what's the Edge, the Microsoft one, because it's rubbish.
Oh yeah, well I wouldn't use that because it's Microsoft. I think there's enough.
Internet Explorer
there's enough bugs in the system.
Yeah,
viruses even.
But there's all these and there's the Chrome browser, and there may be other browsers as well, right? So there's all these different browsers. They don't have any tangible value, but we choose. We'll use this one. We may have looked at the other ones, but we'll use this one. Or we started off with Internet Explorer or Netscape or AOL, and then eventually we ended up on whichever one we're using currently.
Mm-hmm.
So digital goods have value and they have utility. We live in an increasing digital world. Now, whether or not Bitcoin, and I mean Bitcoin in particular, not cryptocurrencies, I'm going to try and keep it simple, gets used as money isn't down to you or me. It's down to the market. The market will decide. If you gave me an ounce of gold, I'm pretty certain, well, one, I would accept it. I say, Richard, thank you very much, right? I'm pretty certain that pretty much anywhere in the world, certainly outside of Europe, apart from Germany and Austria and Switzerland, I could go to anywhere in Africa or Asia or South America, North America, they would accept it. They'd see the value in it. In Britain, a lot of my friends and family don't get the value of gold. So, but all those individual agents is the market. The market decides what has value. And then when fiat currency collapses, well, that's the market deciding this fiat currency has no value. So it's not down to you and I as individuals, it's down to the market. And whether you like it or not, or agree with it, or you understand it, since Bitcoin has launched, the market has decided and is deciding that Bitcoin has value. Because you can exchange it for gold, you can exchange it for silver, you can exchange it for currencies, you can exchange it for goods.
So you've got this thing which you can do, and I've got no problem with anybody choosing whatever they damn well like to use as a money or a form of exchange or a mechanism to buy things. I've got no problem with that. It's just at the moment it seems to be that I talk to people and one of them will say, well, it's corruptible. Another one says things like, well, I would argue also that you've got to have a mobile phone to have it. You've got to have that fully charged. You've got to have the app on it. I mean, there's a lot of you've got to have. Whereas if you've got a handful of coins, you haven't got to do anything. You've got a handful of coins. It doesn't matter if the internet goes down and all that. You haven't got to be in a digital world to be able to run it. It's private. It's between you, and you can hide it wherever you damn well like, or keep it, on your doorstep and hope that people don't take it. It's probably not a sensible thing, to be fair. But it's just easy. Okay, I admit, if you're buying stuff over the internet or from another town or something, it's not so easy to shove it on a mule and send it up the motorway. Of course, that's a thing, but we kind of already have a system like that. And then there's the whole business about, well, there's this version of it, and then there's that version of it. And who knows which is the right version and which one is likely to lose money on or is going to disappear, or the cabal have actually got their fingers in the pies, because it doesn't seem to matter who I talk to. There's always somebody saying, oh, no, that version is not the right version. You've got this Hammer Mackie Toto bloke, and then there's some other bloke, Daniel King, or whatever his name is, I can't remember, some other geezer who says, no, I'm the inventor of it. And you just think, why would you have a money system where there's a sort of bit of cloak and dagger behind it, of like, oh, we don't know who it was, and also somebody else going, no, it was me, but I've got an English sounding name, I haven't got that Japanese sounding name, who seems to take everyone to court if you question it. Yeah, it just seems very bizarre. Yeah, that's the guy. There we go.
Who claims to be Satoshi Nakamoto, and he won a court case, but I know in the cryptocurrency industry, many people are skeptical about his claims, but nevertheless, he won the court case. Now, the same could be gold and silver have value, and it's great in a legacy world, right? You don't live very far from me. So you and I, we could meet up and transact with gold and silver. We could even meet up and transact with cash. Cash is great up to a point, right? But in a digital world, what there needs to be is where we do business digitally. I work digitally. Many, many people work digitally. They earn money digitally. We need to have a form of money that works in the digital sphere. Now, it requires a paradigm shift. We used to live in Wembley, Richard, right? Many, many years ago. And my dad walked down to the local Midland Bank, which then became HSBC, and he opened a bank account. And then if he wanted a new checkbook, he'd walk down to the bank and he'd sign a slip and they'd give him a new checkbook, or he'd send him a letter and they'd send it through the post. And then I remember once, many years ago, when he's living in Pakistan, he said to me, "Beta, can you get me a new checkbook?" Okay, oh boy, I'll just open up my laptop and order it there. And he's like, "What? You can order a checkbook over the computer?" Yeah, you can. It's a paradigm shift. So and a paradigm shift, the rules in the new paradigm are different to the rules in the old paradigm. I know that your partner started home educating her kids. And for me, because my kids were home educated, what applies in school doesn't work at home. It's a paradigm shift. I have to use new models of interpretation, new approaches, new techniques. And the same applies here in going from the world of physical money, gold and silver, to the world of decentralized digital money. And then again, about go on, Richard.
I was just going to say, you say it's decentralized. How is it decentralized?
Right. Okay. So Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he or they were, released the code open source. And then people started what's called mining it. Now, for those that don't know, right, what that is running a computer program that solves a sum that every now and then spits out a number of Bitcoin. Now, in the beginning, supposing you and I were the first ones to discover this code, this algorithm, and we installed it on our computers and we start running the program. Every 10 minutes, 25 Bitcoin get created. But they're shared between you and me. You get 12.5, I get 12.5. Then we tell our mates, and 2 of our friends joined. We now have 4 computers. One of my mates is in Scotland. One of your mates is in Ireland. So there's 4 computers across the British Isles that are now running this open source algorithm, but it still only spits out 25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. So it's now divided by 4 people. That's that's in that way, it grows and grows and grows and grows. Now, the 25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes was right at the beginning. And what's happened now is you've got computers all over the world, but these are specialized computers that all they do nothing else. Like my computer, I can send emails, I can browse.
I get what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah.
These are stripped down computers, really powerful computers, and all they do is they run that code, they run that code, they run that code.
But what's the point? I mean, it sounds like that's just an aside that this Bitcoin does. But what's the point of that? Why is it not just concentrating on being the money thing instead of having this? We spit these things out every 25 minutes and a few people. If you've got the computer, it's very sounds to me like it's a bit elitist. If you haven't got the right computer, you can't play the game.
You could do it in the beginning. In the beginning, you could do it in an ordinary laptop.
But you can't now.
Can't now, because what happened is the market got interested in Bitcoin.
But but what's the advantage of this little side thing because it seems like, what you call miners. I mean, to me, miners is either people under 18 or they go down into a mine.
Dig for gold, right?
And dig for whatever the thing is. But this is a computer. I don't understand. You've got this service of money, whatever it is, and then you've got this side game going on. Which
it's not the side game. It's not the side game. It keeps the code alive and fresh and updated. That's what it does.
Why has it got to be updated? I don't understand that.
Let me come to that in a second, right? But do you get the decentralization now because
no
computers? Well, there are computers all over the world now. There's computers in Russia, in China, in South America, in Venezuela.
These are people's own computers, aren't they? It's not run
specialized machines that
just by chance are running this program, or they've designed their computers to run. I get that bit.
Yeah, okay.
But isn't the logbook?
You get that it's decentralized.
No.
No. Okay, well, if the computers are spread all over the world and there's no central point of control, which there isn't, how are they not decentralized?
But these are people just mining for this 25, not pence, Bitcoin, whatever it is. You said I don't quite understand why that is. You said it's to keep it alive.
Well, I'll come to that, but I want to make sure you've got that it's decentralized.
Well, but it's not decentralized in the way I think, because there's a logbook, isn't there?
No, the code is decentralized. But first, you've got to get. I want to get it across to you, right? That the mining, the computer programs, the computers that run the code are all over the world. There's no central point or agency that deals with them. It's like ants' nests are all over the world, and apart from Antarctica and the Arctic, they're decentralized. You can find them in every continent. There's no one place, okay, this is where the mother ant ship is or something, right? In the south of Spain, and that's sending out instructions to the rest of the world, to the rest of the ants. There's nothing like that. The ants are all over the world. So and that's the decentralized nature of it. The computers are all over the world. They are.
But that isn't that like saying there is land mass all over the world. There's no centralized piece of land. Land is all over the place, but it's who controls the land.
Sure, but there isn't any centralized control of land. This government owns that bit.
No, but there seems to be pretty close to it. But it could be. But it could be if you had a tribe who managed to take over everybody, hypnotize everybody in one mass hypnosis thing and said, right, you're all under my power. It would be possible. But you could still then say, but the land is decentralized, and the land would be decentralized because there's water in between it. It sounds to me like all you've described is a bunch of computers running code all over the place. And I get that. I understand that. But it's what's being run on that, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, well, let's get to that, right? So the computers are all over the world, i.e. they're decentralized and distributed.
Yeah.
And what they run is the same code. So
that's the central bit.
No.
That's why it's centralized, because they're running, if they were all running different code, it would be decentralized.
They're running one code, but the code is distributed all over the world. You take it, let's say there are 10,000 Bitcoin computers or miners, right?
Mm.
You take out one of those, so there's 9,999.
Yeah.
But the code is still the same code all over. You add another 10,000. It's still the same code all over, which is the magic of Bitcoin. Just like the magic of the internet is you and I can have a conversation looking at each other's faces, real-time live conversation versus over a telephone or shouting across the street.
Yeah, but it's the same central code.
It's the same code, yes.
Yeah. So to me, it doesn't matter then whether the computers are spread all over the world or all in the same room. Doesn't really matter.
But I think
because all you're explaining to me is there is distance between all these computers. But if you were to take all those computers running the code and shove them in a room, albeit a very big room, but if you would put them all in the same room, effectively you have exactly the same situation. It's just that they are not graphically in different parts of the world, but they're all they're still all connected. So they're then in one place. They're all on the world. They're in one place on the world, which is a central sphere, if you like. But the code that's running across them is the thing that's centralizing them. It's because it's the same code.
The code is connecting them. It is the same code. But look, the code for your Brave browser or my Firefox browser, it's the same.
Mm. But they're not making a claim that Firefox are all decentralized. That's all I'm getting at.
Well, Firefox is Bitcoin is decentralized money. Firefox is an open source.
Yes.
Browser that's all over the world running the same code. They're not connected necessarily, right? But there are email programs that are open source that are connected and speak to each other that are all over the world. But what you said about getting all the computers together, well, that's a hypothetical thing. It's also hypothetically possible for somebody to get all the gold together and put it all in one room, and it would be a cube no bigger than my house. But that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Yes, I know, but the whole point of having it as a hypothetical is you haven't got to do it, have you? But you can look at the logic of it, and you can say just the fact that they've got longer cables between them doesn't make any difference whether they've got shorter cables in one place.
But Richard, that's the same pitfall for gold. Somebody could gather all the gold together.
And that may be true, but the gold isn't saying it's decentralized, is it? the Bitcoin is making this claim that it's decentralized. But what I don't see as a decentralized thing is all you've got is computers on longer cables, but they're all connected together. Whether they're all over, whether they're across the whole galaxy, it doesn't really make much difference. They're on longer bits of cable, but it's the same code that's running, which is the central. That's the thing that brings it all together, which makes it central.
It doesn't make it central. I think there's a
terminology difference.
I have, right? What's centralized? When something is centralized, it's located in one particular time and space. When something is decentralized, it's distributed. It's all over. There's no central locus of control. I could change the code on my computer miner that's running the Bitcoin code. And do you know what would happen? What would happen to the Bitcoin code?
No idea.
Nothing. I wouldn't be able to change the Bitcoin code. No single one party can change the Bitcoin code and keep it as Bitcoin. It'll become something else. Just like if I took a Model T.
I just still don't get then. How is that not decentralized? I mean, how is that not centralized? Because it's like...
Well, because there's nobody who can actually capture the whole code and change it.
It's the same code on all the machines, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But nobody can capture it. Banks are centralized. The Bank of England or NatWest, what's recently happened with Nigel Farage, a politician in Britain, who got debanked, the NatWest Bank is centralized. It's a centralized closed system, and they decided we're going to shut this person out. Can't do that with Bitcoin. If you're running a Bitcoin computer program at your place, right, and I'm running it, I can't shut you out. I can't stop anybody joining and running.
So when you say, I think maybe what we're using a word which in my vocabulary doesn't mean the same as what it does to you, and you may be correct. I'm not saying I'm correct by any means, but it sounds like there is no control. Nobody in control of it.
That's right.
That to me is a different thing from saying whether it's centralized or not.
Yeah, it's person to person, and there's no overarching agency that controls it in any way. And that's what Satoshi Nakamoto invented. He invented Bitcoin as a reaction to the 2008 banking crisis, because what we have with banks is what's known as counterparty risk, which is what Nigel Farage experienced, right? That he's dependent upon somebody else taking care of his currency.
So we are dependent. We are dependent on the infrastructure carrying on, which I guess you're going to say is unlikely that it would go down because all of these computers are likely to be run on separate sources.
Yeah,
rather than
shut down the internet. But I've got more immediate problems, which is there water going to come through my tap? Are the traffic lights going to work?
Probably shouldn't be drinking the water through your tap, to be honest with you.
I have a Berkey water filter, but I have to fill it up from the tap anyway, right?
Okay.
But if the internet shuts down, are we going to have electricity? We'll have more immediate concerns. Now, here's the magic: the internet, and plus also, they're going to lose their ways of controlling us. How are the LTNs and the ULEZ going to work without the internet, right? How are they going to give us all this psyops across the media without the internet? Right, internet's not going to go down. They might go down for a day or so just to inconvenience us, but it goes back up. The Bitcoin code is still there. Just like you can't get rid of ants' nests unless you destroy the entire planet. You can't get rid of Bitcoin. So there's no central point of control. It's all over the place. Now, it's connected. They are connected. But there's so many things that are connected. The internet is connected. Our Firefox browsers are connected in some way to Firefox servers when they distribute upgrades. They're connected to the Firefox store, which is somewhere where we can have add-ons. Our mobile phones are connected through the mobile phone signal. Radios are connected through radio frequency. TVs are connected. So there's many, many things that are connected. So the Bitcoin miners, and I'm just talking about Bitcoin, they are connected to each other. And what connects them is that they're running the same program. Just like right now, my computer is running Zoom and your computer is running Zoom, and we're talking through Zoom servers, which is centralized. They can shut down, they can use this for AI, and as they've said recently, and they can listen in our conversations possibly, right? It's a centralized system because there's another agency who can come in. Can't do that with Bitcoin. It's peer to peer. Just like I hand you gold, you hand me gold, there's no other party involved.
Is it not that people can look at the log thing?
They can look at the log thing, right? And
so if I buy something, someone can see what I've bought.
Yeah, they can look on the.
I don't. Well, that's not private, though, is it?
That's not private. And there are remedies to that, and I'm wary of going that place with you, because just like the Model T Ford is old and clunky and very, very slow, right? But it was revolutionary.
Yeah.
And then people invented really fast, sleek machines, right? So people have invented faster, sleeker cryptocurrencies that are completely private.
So is Bitcoin private?
No, it's a public ledger.
Oh. Why would you want to use it?
It's what's known as pseudonymous.
What the hell does that mean?
It means that, so it's not fully anonymous, right? Because I can see the transaction, but it takes something to associate somebody's Bitcoin account with a particular person. That takes work and effort. It's possible. So,
but people could work that out, couldn't they? If they wanted to know what I was buying. So there's me, a fraudster, or one of these what do you call it, con men, and he's got the software. He's got some clever IT bloke, and he says, right, okay, we're going to do one on Richard Vobes. Let's have a look, see what he's been buying for the last 3 months. Okay, so he's buying a lot of this, whatever it might be. I don't know. He's into fast cars, or loose women, or women with actually who have their bits that don't fall off, whatever it might be. And then they go, okay, so we're now going to pose as this because we've gleaned information from his purchases. I don't want that. I don't want people knowing. Think about cash, even fiat currency, which can lose its value and be controlled by a central government. At least if I buy from you a pocket watch or a banana or whatever, it's between you and me. I mean, I can go into a closed room so people can't look through their binoculars at us and go, oh, look at him. He's bought a box of nuts. Whatever that is, but it's private. I can't. I mean, surely that's enough. The fact that Bitcoin, that anybody can have a look at it, it's like, oh my god, that's a bit much, isn't it?
Well, what people will see will be lots of transactions on the ledger. Bitcoin going from this Bitcoin account, which is a series of letters and characters that are impossible to remember, right? Or read, going to another series of letters and characters and the time that it went and all of that. Right now, Bitcoin was the first. It has failings, but so does gold and silver. They have failings.
No, I'm sure they do, because you can have fake gold and inferior gold.
But even real gold and real silver has failings because it doesn't work in a digital world. This is digital money for a digital world, and we interact with both, right? Now, Bitcoin is a bloody big improvement on centralized fiat currency systems.
Is centralized fiat currency private, though?
No. Because the banks can see, the government can see, they can seize records. It's not at all. And the CBDCs will be even less private because the government will know exactly what we spent it on, when we...
But could you? If I'm buying stuff with my Visa card, can you see what it is?
I couldn't tell. But with Bitcoin...
But with Bitcoin, could you do that?
I couldn't tell what you bought with it. I could say, okay, so Richard sent 1 Bitcoin from his address to that address. I don't know if that address is another one of your addresses, or if it's it might be a business address, and I could possibly find that out. But that's all I would see. I'd just see those transactions. Now, there are data analytics firms that work it all out, and they're able to track it. But that takes work and effort. But just like the Model T Ford was a new innovation that got refined and improved, so that we have cars that are way more efficient than the Model T Ford right now, way more reliable, that last much, much longer. My Prius is way more efficient than the Model T Ford ever will be. It's not private. We haven't got to invisible cars yet. I'm not sure if they'd be a good idea, right? But my point in this conversation is Bitcoin as the entry point into digital cryptocurrencies. I don't want to get into all the other things, right? Because where it's really, really useful for us, what we got to do as part of the Great Awakening and the Great Resist, is move to decentralized structures and decentralized forms of money. Now, here's if I can move on. So I do accept that Bitcoin does have this flaw that the transactions are public.
Right.
I do accept that. But it's not necessarily linked to a name. But that can be worked out, but not by ordinary people, right? They have chain analytics. The NSA could work that out, but the NSA can work loads of stuff out, right? Where Bitcoin is a big improvement. Actually, let me just check. Now, have I addressed that for you? Are you satisfied?
Well, I understand what you mean. I understand now what you mean by decentralized, in terms of there's no one control who's reading the ledger and can chuck you off. I get that now.
Yeah, it's peer-to-peer. Richard, are you familiar with BitTorrent and file sharing?
I haven't really used it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. Do you know Hollywood and Bollywood have spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to shut it down? Do you know they haven't been able to? Do you know why?
No idea.
Because it's decentralized and distributed. Pirate Bay in the UK, if I log onto the Pirate Bay website, the government have told the ISPs to tell them. ISPs have to tell the government if I go on Pirate Bay. Do you know it's still possible to go on Pirate Bay?
And what is Pirate Bay?
Pirate Bay is a BitTorrent file sharing website.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because Pirate Bay is decentralized. They've not been able to shut it down. You cannot shut down a decentralized system. You just think
if this Pirate Bay thing is already in existence, why don't they use that instead of having to use all these miners and
use it?
Other...
But here's the thing about Pirate Bay, right? Is and with digital goods, and this was Satoshi Nakamoto's genius. You send me, I download a PDF, or you send me a PDF, right? I can copy it. I can many copies, right? And then one of the things about money, different to currency, is it has to have scarcity. If I can copy a digital good, well, it's no longer scarce. It loses value because I've increased the supply. Bitcoin can't be copied. You can't produce more. There'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. And I mean Bitcoin in particular, like the original Model T Ford, right? There'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Just like you can't fashion gold or silver. There's only gold.
So if you've only got 21 million Bitcoin, what happens when you run out?
Well, that's not going to happen until 2140. Bitcoin's divisible up to 8 decimal points. So maybe it'll come to a point, and the 8 decimal points is 100 million.
I don't know what any of what you've just said there. You've got 21 million Bitcoins. What's a Bitcoin worth? A penny?
Well, no, currently it's about $29,000 at the time of recording.
What, for one?
Yeah.
Well, you can't go into a sweet shop and buy something, then, can you, with Bitcoin?
You can use a fraction of a Bitcoin, and you can use it breaks down to 8 decimal points, just like the pound breaks down to 2 decimal points. 100 pennies in a pound. Do you get that?
Okay, so in actual fact, there's quite a lot of it then.
Yeah, it can be. It's divisible, which is another feature of money. Money's got to be scarce. It's got to be divisible. Gold and silver are divisible. Take something, right? You take an ounce of gold, you cut it. Now you got 2 half ounces.
So what would happen then if the prices go up? If inflation went up, and everything was hugely inflated, and you don't have enough, even though you've got divisible by whatever, and so an apple suddenly costs 1,000 Bitcoins, and you've got, whoa, we've only got 21 million of that. And if everybody in the world is using Bitcoin, we're going to run out of Bitcoins. Is there somebody somewhere who can go, we'll just chuck another 20 million Bitcoins into the system? No one's looking.
No.
Then what do you do?
Well, but also what you said can't happen. You can't inflate the supply of Bitcoin, just like you can't inflate the supply of gold. So I would come back to you and say, okay, let's use that example, and let's use gold as the form of money.
You can still dig more gold out, can't you? You can find it.
You can find it, right? But here's what happened. Here's what's happened with gold. Is that on the surface, there might have been in the beginning some supply, there's a few flakes and stuff like that where they found it, and there's a gold rush. And then they have to dig deeper, a meter, then 10 meters, 100 meters, then a kilometer. There are mines in South Africa that are 2 meters deep, 2 miles deep, digging for gold, right? And they might find a tiny bit in tons of rock. Bitcoin replicates that same level of built-in scarcity. So for the first 4 years, there were 25 Bitcoins every 10 minutes. And then the code, it's already written into the code. It can't be changed. It dropped to 12.5 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. Currently, I think it's 6.25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. From April 2024, it'll be 3.125 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. And it will keep reducing by 50% every 4 years until 2140. So just like the gold supply diminishes over time and you have to dig deeper and expend more energy and work harder, you don't get more. It's the same deal with Bitcoin. The scarcity is built in. Same deal with silver. So you can't have 1,000, your Apple, you can't inflate the supply. You can't change the code and for it to still be Bitcoin. You can change the code and it's no longer Bitcoin, just like you can twiddle about with the Chrome browser, but now you've got a Brave browser. It's no longer Chrome. So Bitcoin preserves its original code and the market decides that it has value. And it's digital money. It's not perfect, but then gold is not perfect. Gold is useless for small transactions. That's why we have silver. But then silver tarnishes. And silver is not portable in a digital world. Anything you want to say, Richard? Do you get this? Do you get this?
It sounds extremely complicated. I mean, ordinary money is nice and easy. You've got, let's just take the ordinary boring fiat currency that we've got. Never mind the beautiful pound, shillings and pence that we used to have here in jolly old England, that then in the 1970s changed into the awful metric system, which most people probably think is always much easier because you don't have to deal in 12s and things. But either way, you've got a very simple system. You go into a shop, something's 50p, you've got 50p and you've done it. Bang. Thanks very much. I've got a lollipop, or 2 lollipops perhaps, maybe 3 depending on the sweet shop. And you take it off and it's maybe, I don't know, it's a nice flavour of custard and lime. It's delicious. In fact,
you're really going on this one, right?
Wish I'd bought a couple of those. Damn it! Spent my 50p. Any chance I could? Oh no! All right, fair enough. I'll come back tomorrow, and I've got more pocket money. But money was simple.
Yes,
life. But this is complex. But yes, I know. But I mean, could we not have a simpler version, please? Why have we got to have all this sort of mining and blockchain and all? I mean, the problem I see is that I must represent a certain demographic, of which there must be millions, who are just sitting there going, huh?
Yeah.
Because we're brought up, and you talk about the paradigm shift, but for hundreds of centuries, well, maybe not hundreds of centuries, well, yeah, probably hundreds of centuries, we have had some sort of very simple physical money that has served us very well. And then almost overnight, we're expected to go, now I've got something complicated, don't really understand. It's publicly available. Anyone can work it out. We know that there are a lot of villains in the shyster world of the digital world that are desperately trying to get your money off you fraudulently. My worry is that this is created out of nothing. I know you say it has value, but we know that money, if you go to a mortgage broker and you say, can I have a mortgage? And they go to the bank and they go, well, actually, you got any money? And they just tell him we got it. We'll just put it on the computer. And we know all of that system goes on. And, you're telling us this system, and it all sounds, and I have no reason to distrust you particularly, but we don't know who this Socky Mocky Motor bloke is. And there's all these other variants of it. And it's like, well, which is the best? It's the VHS versus the Betamax thing again. It's all very, well, you're too stupid to understand it because it's a new paradigm and it's the new digital world that we're all supposedly in. And I'm thinking to myself, this is an element of the digital world that I think is where we shouldn't be venturing into, because I think the digital world is dangerous. I think it has some very good things, but I think the digital world is a dangerous place because it is. Oh, you've got somebody coming in.
Go on.
I think if we continue to push everything into the digital world, we are losing that sense of reality.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Pleasure.
A lot there, right? I hope I managed to address it all.
But the most important part was the lollipops, because I'd like my money back because I got the wrong one.
No lollipops till after this recording.
Oh, all right.
You really should have met my dad. You really should have met you and him could have sat together and said, I don't get this internet business, right? I don't get this digital business and this Bitcoin. My dad never understood Bitcoin at all. He didn't understand that I've paid off my mortgage. And for me as a social worker, that wasn't going to happen. But I paid off my mortgage because of Bitcoin. I was able to do it through Bitcoin, right? That's a real use application. This house that I'm in is mine and my wife's. And Bitcoin did that.
Because we can't see the house because of the secret, not secret, the banner at the back.
No, that's actually my wallpaper.
Yeah, that's rubbish. This is a real set. I'm in a real place here. Look, Like, this is all real stuff. I can pick stuff. I can pick stuff up. You know. Oh, look at that! Cash is king. Look at that.
Anyway, knock
something off underneath the studio. Hang on, can't hear you, and I've just thrown. The place is covered. So there is an advantage with a digital set. I get that because I just destroyed mine. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Good.
I'm still here, right?
I think I can hear you.
So we're talking about the simplicity. I get it. The physical world. I got the digital backdrop, right?
Yeah. I like the physical world. I like being in the physical world. I don't want to be in the. I love the feel of real coins and real money and counting it out and having it about me and not having it on a machine that emits electronic magnetic fields that is destroying our bodies. I think that there's too much of all this radio frequencies. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and the old systems were safe.
They were safe, right? They were safe. I do get it, right? However, whether you and I like it or not, we are in an increasingly digital world, and more of the world is moving digital. You know, during lockdown, for example, having to do bloody social work meetings over Teams or Zoom or something, I didn't like that. I wanted to be with people, wanted to see them.
Sorry, fixing the studio here.
All right, whether you and I like it or not, right, there is this increasing digitalization of the world. And there's a particularly dangerous form of digital phenomenon that's coming our way: centralized digital currencies.
Yes, well, I don't like I certainly don't like the idea of that, of course.
But decentralized digital currencies offer us an alternative, decentralized peer-to-peer system of transacting. We don't have to use the central bank digital currency system. We can use the decentralized digital currency system that isn't owned by anyone as part of how we transact and create these decentralized communities that we live and move in. And then nobody can cut us out. I can't, sure, I can see your Bitcoin transaction, but I can't, like with a CBDC, the governments will be able to stop you from spending it. I can't take away 0.5% of the value of your CBDC every single day, giving you no choice but to spend it, so you can't save it. I can't penalize you and say, no, you've had far too many burgers this week, far too many lollipops. I can't put any sorts of limits on it.
My teeth have gone. I don't know where they are.
Yeah, it's not possible, Richard, for anyone to put those limits on a decentralized digital currency like Bitcoin. It just isn't. And that's where it's useful and valuable. I'm not saying don't have gold and silver. Gold is the ultimate form of money. All forms of money, the pound or currency, silver, the dollar, Bitcoin, this Bitcoin, that Bitcoin, they're all against gold.
So I can see that there is clearly a reason to have some form of, because we have some form of digital money now, on our Visa cards.
We don't have any control over it. We don't have
I agree there. So I mean, although I've been sort of playing a bit on the devil's advocate here to sort of
which is what I asked you to do.
Which is what you asked me to do. I can see that there is a need. The problem I see is that people will go, well, which one is the right one? I keep referring to the Betamax VHS, and everybody has a different thing on it, but some are likely not to be as good as the other. And people, I think it was you that said, don't spend any more money on it than you can afford, which then says, well, I can't afford any money you can afford to lose. It's like betting on the horses, don't put any more money than you can afford to lose. I can't afford to lose any money. Right. Thank you very much.
I'd say the same to somebody if they were going to buy gold and silver.
But then, would you say put money into fiat currency?
No, definitely not.
But you see, that is the thing. We get paid.
We do, right? And having said that, right, my wife and I, we have stocks. We get paid in fiat currency. We have some savings. We have gold. We have silver. We have Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, right? I think it's useful to diversify. But even like buying land, if I was going to buy land, I wouldn't put in any more than I can afford to lose, because who knows what's going to happen. It's just a good investment practice. If we were going to buy a house, we wouldn't go and buy the house and indebt ourselves up to the hilt. That's not smart.
No, I suppose, but when someone says don't put anything in more than you can afford to lose, I can't afford to lose any of it. So, it just makes you think, oh, it doesn't sound as if it's very secure. That's all, I suppose it is.
It is very, very secure. You can't produce any more Bitcoin. The other thing that you said about it is that you can create Bitcoin out of nothing. You can't. It takes energy. It takes investment. If I wanted to start a gold mine, right, it would take energy and investment. I would have to find where the gold is, right? I'd have to survey the land and everything. I'd have to get permission from the government. I'd have to get all sorts of licenses. It would expend a lot of energy. And once I'd got that, I would then have to buy the machinery, get the employees, the technicians, the engineers, and then there's the work of going down the mine and digging for the gold and then extracting it. All of that consumes energy. Same with silver. It's all takes energy. Same with Bitcoin. Creating fiat currency, the way the governments have been doing, takes no energy. They just press a button, boom, another $100 million sent from the US to go and kill for more killing in Eastern Europe. That takes no effort. Bitcoin, it takes energy. I would need to get myself a Bitcoin computer program and then start running it. I'd have to pay for the electricity costs. The computer's doing work. It's consuming energy as it does that work. I can't just create it. And even then, there's going to be no more than 6.25 Bitcoins every 10 minutes. So I'm competing with all the other computers to solve the algorithm first to get the Bitcoin. You can't just create Bitcoin like that. And I can't go and change the algorithm and say, I know, I'll get 6.25 Bitcoin before Richard does. Can't do it. The code doesn't allow it. The decentralized nature of the code, the fact that it's distributed, doesn't allow it. A change here doesn't change the code elsewhere. It just changes.
Are there miners out there then are making fortune out of mining it?
Yeah, large mining farms, just like there are. Same with gold. You know, Barrick Gold make loads and loads of money out of mining gold.
No, but on Bitcoin world, in Bitcoin world,
there are miners mining farms that are making lots and lots of money out of gold. There are people in Venezuela. You know, when the currency collapsed in Venezuela, and it's still collapsing, people are using digital currencies, decentralized digital currencies, Bitcoin and others, in order to transact with, because they're not losing value, because they can't be inflated away. Now, here's what I'm going to go into regular currencies, but I want to draw a distinction between money and currency for everyone, right? So here are the qualities of money. So one, it's got to be acceptable. The market's got to recognize that it has money. You know, I can't use my shirt to trade something in. You can't use your waistcoat. Market's not going to accept that. You and we might swap, right? But that's not the market. So it's got to be acceptable. It's got to be in limited supply. You increase the supply of something, it loses value. You can't increase the supply of gold. I think gold actually increases at about 0.5% a year. That's the new gold. Silver, I don't know, but silver gets used up because it gets consumed. It's the second most industrially used commodity after oil. It gets used up. It's got to be uniform, or what's known as fungible. So an ounce of gold at 99% refined is the same as another ounce of gold at 99% refined. Even if this is just a gold nugget and this is a gold Britannia. Same purity, it's gold. It's the same. It's fungible. It's uniform. Cowrie shells that have been used as money, they're not uniform. They're not fungible. One cowrie shell might be bigger than another one, might have different coloration or whatever, might be heavier slightly. It's not fungible. It's not exchangeable. 50 pence in your pocket is the same as the 50 pence in my pocket. It's fungible.
If it's the same as yours, I'll have it back.
It's actually yours, Richard. So when right? Then it's also got to be divisible. You've got to be able to divide it, right? So you can. It's no good, right? You got a kilo of gold. You can't go shopping with it. You've got to be able to break it down. So you can break down a kilo of gold into 1,000 grams of gold, possibly even 1/10 of a gram of gold, maybe, right? I don't know how small that would be. You can do that with silver. You can break down a kilo of silver. You can break down Bitcoin to 8 decimal places. Then it's got to be portable. So silver and gold are portable up to a point. Physically, they have limitations. They have limitations in the digital world. If I was going to, I would have to carry a kilo of silver in my pocket and come over to you and hand it over to you. That would take time and effort and energy. Can't just press a button and send you some Bitcoin from my Bitcoin account, like I'm going to send you an email to your Bitcoin account, like I was going to send you an email to your email account, right? And then it's also got to be durable. It's got to last. There's no point if I have was they in one particular state in the United States, they used to use tobacco leaves for money for a while. But tobacco leaves, they rot, they fade, they disintegrate. Can't use that as money because then your money's gone. Right? Now, all of those characteristics, Bitcoin, gold, and silver are durable. Bitcoin, gold, and silver are portable. Different degrees. Bitcoin, gold, and silver are divisible. Bitcoin, gold, and silver are fungible or uniform. Bitcoin, gold, and silver are limited supply. Can't make more gold, can't make more silver, you can't make more Bitcoin. Bitcoin, gold, and silver are accepted as money. Not everywhere and not at all times. There are, like I said earlier, I have friends and family that don't think gold is money. I'm like, fine, you give me your gold, I'll hand it over to somebody in India, they'll gladly take it. I'll hand it to somebody in Ghana, they'll say, thank you very much. Somebody in Zimbabwe, they'll take it, thank you very much. So they both fit all those criteria, whether you and I like it or not. I actually prefer silver because it's prettier and shinier. The Silver Britannia is such a beautiful coin. Beautiful coin. So that's money. Now, all of those apply to currencies, except for one. So by currencies, I mean dollar, pound, euro, yen, yuan, all of that. The government produced currencies. What the government declares is currency, is money, fiat currency, right? All 5 of those characteristics apply. The one that doesn't is limited supply.
Because they can print as much as they like.
And they are. I was in Sierra Leone last week for a cryptocurrency project. They're kind enough to send me out. It's fabulous, right? We were 6 of us, went to a really top restaurant and had a meal. And the meal came to $170. And the guy that was paying took out a plastic bag and he took out these notes and he piled them on the table, and $170 was 3 inches high in the local currency because they've inflated the supply so much. And one way of looking at it, this may twist your head, Richard, be ready. Okay, be ready, okay?
I'm ready.
Gold, Bitcoin and silver, or rather Bitcoin, because they're getting up to mischief with gold and silver that they can't do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin hasn't gone up in value. 1 Bitcoin is 1 Bitcoin. Fiat currencies have gone down in value. That's what's happened. I'm just like when I first came to this country in 1970, the 5 of us, we'd go to the local co-op. My dad, mum and dad would do a weekly shop, came to £5 to fill up the trolley. And now 150 to 200 pounds to fill up the trolley.
They've increased the size of the trolley.
Same size trolley, right?
Oh, same.
But
Same
what's
size
happened
trolley.
is they've increased the supply. The governments have increased the supply, which is built into central banking. How central banking works is they increase the supply, plus they do quantitative easing, which is whoosh, another increase. So the pound has lost purchasing power. The dollar has lost purchasing power. Gold, silver, and Bitcoin haven't, except they do manipulate gold and silver, which they can't do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin hasn't lost purchasing power. And that's why.
Well, it would be nice if there was Bitcoin in actual coins and notes as well, because you could have the best of both worlds, then, couldn't you?
Well, you could kind of do that. It would take energy, right? Because you'd have to make sure that Bitcoin those coins couldn't be counterfeited, right? So a
little bit of energy wouldn't matter. I mean, I don't mind using up a bit of energy to do that. And you've got behind you on your wallpaper there, Bitcoin. It's often illustrated as coins. And yet that's not coins.
It's not coin. It's just a meme. That's all it is. Just a symbol, right? But for example, you could make...
That's a powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it makes you think that it's a gold, especially as they show it to you in gold, and it's not gold. I mean,
digital gold, or it's gold for the digital world.
Yeah.
It has the same qualities. But there's something about Bitcoin and gold that they do with gold and silver that they can't do with Bitcoin, right? Gold and silver are traded as money on the foreign exchange markets. Did you know that?
Probably. I mean, I don't know.
You can buy and sell against the US dollar, gold. You can buy and sell against the pound and the euro, gold and silver, right? So just like you can US dollar and euros, they do massive, massive trades. So Bitcoin has gone up because it's not so easy to manipulate the price because it's decentralized and transparent. What the exchanges in London and New York do, when it looks like gold's getting too strong, they produce additional digital certificates of gold flood the market to crash the price. That's why gold has very, very slowly gone up in the last 10 years, while Bitcoin has gone this way, because they keep crashing the price of gold and silver. Why do they do that? To make the dollar look strong. Because if it looked like the dollar was going to weaken, more people would rush into gold, and the weakening of the dollar would accelerate. Can't do that with Bitcoin because anybody can see what's happening with the blockchain. You can't, and the code won't recognize fake Bitcoin. It has to be the real deal, so it has that advantage. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both, but it's a whole lot better than government-controlled central bank digital currencies, and it's an alternative and a whole lot better to fiat currencies. And the other thing that you can't do with Bitcoin, which is what governments are doing with pounds and dollars and euros and others, right? So the US government will print extra dollars to pay for mining metals, to manufacture munitions, which they then send across the world to drop on people. They can just print money to fuel the arms race and kill people. Can't do that with Bitcoin. You cannot.
Why can't you do that? How would you be able to stop that then?
You just like you can't do that with gold. You can't produce more gold.
No, but you could pay for munitions and have them sent over to wherever you want.
Yeah. So let's say you're a government. You're an evil warmongering government.
I look like one, I know, but there's no need to be personal about it.
and you want to use Bitcoin to pay for building arms and pay for your warmongering, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you'd have to go to the market to buy Bitcoin.
Well, no. Let's say I've got the Bitcoin. I've got the Bitcoin.
How did you get it?
Well, like anything, I've traded other things. I've sold a whole load of oranges. I've got a stack of Bitcoin for these oranges. I'm now going to go, instead of these oranges, I'm going to buy some cannons. And I've bought the cannons, and now I'm shipping them off to goodness knows where, so that the people there can shoot the people with cannons.
Well, let's look at the trading, right? You would have had to take Bitcoin off the market to do that.
Why?
Because where would you get it from?
Anywhere, you would where would you get Bitcoin anyway? You're being paid it in taxes.
Yeah, which is the market. You'd go to the market. You can't press a button to create more fiat dollars.
No, I'm not saying you can do that, but you said you couldn't do it with Bitcoin. I'm saying if you've acquired a lot of Bitcoin, you can buy whatever. Presumably, you're allowed to buy whatever you like, because otherwise, you're saying, "Oh no, you can't buy that central bank digital currency."
Yeah, and what would happen to the other Bitcoin? What would happen?
What other Bitcoin?
What would happen to the price of Bitcoin if a government tries to acquire it?
I have no idea. I don't understand.
Okay.
If you've got, take Bitcoin out of it. You've got oranges, and that's the currency.
No, let's use money. Use gold.
Well, no, because that's confusing it. Because then you'll have different arguments of why gold you can't do that. Right?
It's the same deal.
I work for you, right? No. And you pay me in lollipops.
No, I'll pay you in gold. I'm not going to pay you in lollipops.
I'm not working for you then. So I'm working for.
You prefer lollipops to gold? Come and work for me.
Brilliant. So I'm now working for you, and you give me a whole load of lollipops. I've got these lollipops, right? So that's grand. Then I go to the cannon making man, and I say, I've got all these lollipops. Can I buy some cannon? And he goes, yeah, as it happens, I do use lollipops. So I give him the lollipops, right? Lollipops is just the buying mechanism. He gives me the cannons, and I go over to this little island here, and I've never liked you lot. Blow them all up. And I'm a mean, horrible person for doing that. Of course I am. However, why couldn't I do that in Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, gold, and silver, if you tried it, would get too expensive. It would be unaffordable.
I still don't understand, because you don't know.
If somebody tries to capture a whole lot of Bitcoin or a whole lot of gold or a whole lot of silver, what it does, it makes it gradually more and more expensive for them to capture or obtain an ever-reducing supply.
So you can't be a Bitcoin millionaire then? Is that what you're saying?
You can be a Bitcoin millionaire. What happens is Bitcoin just gets more expensive. It just takes more effort. It becomes uneconomic. Right now...
So isn't that a flaw?
Well, it's the same deal with gold and silver. They're all divisible, but that's the stop to the warmongering. See, right now it costs governments nothing to press a button, print dollars, and fuel and pay.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that. But if you're
Bitcoin, because they can't press a button, because they have to acquire it, And because the supply is limited, as with gold and silver, then the remaining supply gets more and more expensive. It becomes uneconomic for governments to fuel war, and wars are really.
So is that okay? So okay, I get that. So in other words, there you are. You've got a, let's say it for the set. And I know you don't want to deal in other things other than gold. Let's say you've got a ball pool, right? There's a ball pool which kids jump in, don't they? And let's say there's 1 million balls in there for the sake of argument. And you're the government, and you say, well, I'm going to have most of those balls. Thanks very much. So the balls that are left in the ball pool are now going to be more valuable because there's fewer of them. Yeah. But the government still have those others, which now they've increased the value of these things because they've taken them off the market.
Yeah.
So actually,
if they want any more, it's going to cost them more.
Yeah, if they want more. But all the ones they've got suddenly gone up in value.
Sure, but they have gone up in value. However, at some point, the government will have to let go of them. And meanwhile, my balls or Bitcoin or 1 ounce gold, right? I mean, you get 1 billion ounces of gold in this pool, right?
Or lollipops, yeah.
They're worth a whole lot more. You've actually enriched the populace.
Well, there's fewer of them now in the ball pool.
Yeah.
So that you haven't enriched the populace, you've only enriched those people who've got the balls.
Yeah, which is why I think it's smart for people to get into Bitcoin. It's smart for people to get into gold.
No, because then nobody else can buy the balls because there's if there's 1 million balls and I take most of them, there's only 3 balls left. Those balls are incredibly valuable.
I'll sell a fraction. I only need to sell a fraction, whereas before I needed to sell a whole one. Now I only need to sell a fraction.
But the government, who's got pretty much 99% of them, he's sitting on an absolute fortune.
Okay, but Richard, I think that sort of situation is extremely unlikely because no government's managed to do that with gold and silver.
Did they not take the silver away in the gold standard business? Where they made it illegal to take it, and they just came along to own it, right?
They did that in the United States in the 1930s, but that was just one government.
Yeah.
Gold and silver and Bitcoin are global. It just raises the cost of transaction.
You've only got a limited supply. Yes. So I'm going to have to go, I'm afraid. But
was this useful for you? Did it get any clearer?
No. Yes, it did. I mean, I'll be honest. It did get clearer. I just don't trust digital money. I know we're living in a digital world, and I know we're probably. I don't want the central bank digital currency, and I know fiat currency is not it's not worth the paper it's printed on. I understand all that, but I suppose unfortunately it's something I've grown up with. The thing I love about coins and money is it's physical. Mm-hmm. I'm very suspicious of everything digital. Because everything's copyable. I know you say it's not copyable, but I'm sure it is copyable. There'll be clever people.
No, it's not. It's actually not copyable.
Yeah, you say that, but I
could explain. But you got to go. Here's why it's not copyable, right? To copy it, you would have, just like you can't copy gold. To copy it would mean changing the code for all over the world with all those distributed, decentralized computer programs running the algorithm. There isn't the computing power in the world to do that.
But there might be a mafia that could do that.
Well, they've missed the boat because it's way more expensive now. They should have done it at the beginning. And then what happens is they copy it. The code rejects the copies. It's something else. But if you've got,
you could. I mean, could you not have a situation in which all these decentralized computing places that each owner of those gets knocked off and is replaced by a member of some mafiosi, and then in time? These people don't muck about. You look at how they're controlling the world. They're not mucking about.
Here's the thing. It's too decentralized for that. Because sometimes you go into hypothetical situations with lollipops and stuff, which actually don't apply. Which is why I want to keep it back to what's actually real and how it is right now.
But lollipops and ball pools are real things. They're not just made up in a computer like AI.
Zoom is a digital good that you're using right now. You live and work in the digital world, whether or not you like it.
Yeah, but yes and no.
Yes, you do. You do.
I use the tools of the digital world.
And Bitcoin is a tool. It's a digital money.
I know, but
it's a tool.
Oh, I've lost my wallet. I had actually lost. Where did I put my wallet? Oh, it must be on my desk. I was going to try and produce an actual note, but I can't even do that now. The digital world has swallowed me up. Unfortunately, my digital time has disappeared.
Okay, very quickly, you can change the code if 51% of the miners agree that, right? but it agreed to change the code. But then you still have the original code that can still run along, and you have a new code.
It's so complicated, isn't it? It's so complicated.
But it's like with Chrome browser and the Brave browser. Brave forked, what's called forking, from the Chrome browser. You still have the Chrome browser. And
I hope they told them to fork off. Bloody digital world. It's so complicated.
Yes. Well, anyway, here's the complicated or not. I think it's useful because it's an antidote to central bank digital currencies. Because gold and silver aren't going to fly. They can't fly in a digital world.
The biggest question is, how do people trust it? Because you've told me a whole load of stuff, okay? And now I trust you because you seem a nice, decent bloke, and we've met and had a pint, and you bought me a drink or two in a pub. So I have no qualms with you personally. However, it's one of those sort of, to me, in a way, it's like a bit of a snake oil salesman going, oh, well, you want to have this one's the best. And there's all these different things. It's all very difficult for a lot of people to understand. It seems extremely complicated. It seems to be purposefully complicated rather than making it very simple with all these weird terms like miners and blockchain and the code and decentralization. It does seem very smoke and mirrors, and it needs people like yourself who sit there and go, no, but Richard, it's very easy. And you go, if it was easy, just give me a pile of coins and you go, buy this, buy that, bang, done. But it isn't. It's all of this. And bullshit baffles brains. And I feel although you're sitting there arguing it, and I'm sure your audience watching this is going, that Vobes bloke is a complete and utter arse. He's an idiot. I'm sure they're saying, he's asking stupid, he's using stupid thing. But I'm trying to sort of look at it from all different things and putting in hypothetical things, but people who want to control the government started 100 or more years ago. I mean, the things have been going on about people who want to control the world. They've been controlling money for a hell of a long time. And although I may say, oh well, the mafiosi might come in and do this, and you go, oh no, don't be silly, there's too many of them. We're being poisoned in the sky by chemtrails. Having water poisoned. We're having banks and money and air and everything poisoned. We've had a big medical intervention in which the world have been poisoned. I don't put it past them. And you say, oh, it's too late. I don't know about that, because these people are incredibly clever, and they probably got secret information. They probably got free energy. They've got all sorts of bits and bobs. And if it's going to be too confusing and complicated, I just don't think people will get with it. But I probably am extremely wrong. I'm only talking from my own individual thick, comprehensive educational background. And you may be right. And people can completely disagree with me, and they're absolutely right to disagree with me and may think I'm an idiot for it.
I don't completely disagree with you. I think your points are really, really valid and useful. And I would say it is a learning curve, and it's worth people learning about. It is a new paradigm, just like the internet, Zoom, emails, browsers, new paradigm, new ways of engaging with people. Bitcoin takes away the monopoly of value creation from governments.
Is it the only solution?
I don't know of anything else that does. And now Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general do that. I don't know what else there is. We got gold, we got silver, and we got cryptocurrencies. And what I recommend people to do, it's a little bit like when I was talking to you about home education. It doesn't make sense for me anyway, from a schooled mind, from somebody who did well at school and enjoyed school. What do you mean? What do you mean they don't? What do you mean they just play and they learn that way? It doesn't make sense. So it's the same. It's a similar model here.
The school system is a new thing. It's only been going 100 odd years.
Yeah, fiat currencies, a new thing since 1971 when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard and your fiat currency was no longer backed by anything.
So we could go back to having it backed.
Yeah, but then we'd have to trust somebody else. There's the counterparty risk. They could take the backing off. They can still inflate the supply. Nixon was inflating the supply of dollars before he took it off the gold standard in order to kill more people in Vietnam. And Charles de Gaulle called him out on it. You don't have the gold to back the amount of dollars that are circulating. That's what happened. They still do that.
I've got to go. Sorry.
All right. Lovely talking to you. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. It's been great fun to, Yeah, I hope it's of value to anybody.
I hope so.
They might think that Vobesy is a bit of a twit, but I don't mind, because I'm learning all the way.
Not at all. Richard, thank you so much. I have the links to your stuff. Please do check out Richard Vobes and all that business. And between now and see you next,
send lollipops.
Send Bitcoin to Richard. Throw Bitcoin at him. Bitcoin at him. You can throw it back at me. It doesn't hurt when you get thrown Bitcoin, so you can.
Does it not?
Yeah. Is it? No sting on that gold. All right.
Oh, okay.
All right. Take care, mate. All the best.
Bye-bye.